Welcome to Cousin Osmosis, which is the name we've chosen to go with.
This is our podcast. I'm Shanna Cooley.
I'm Atlas Selman.
And we're cousins.
Yes, we're cousins.
And we're doing something that has to do with cultural osmosis.
That is why we chose this name.
So our options were cousin osmosis or cousinal osmosis.
We went with Cousin Osmosis for the SEO.
Yep.
The Googleability, because osmosis is fine. Cousinal, that's a step too far.
Yep. I don't know how you'd even spell that.
Probably just cousin.
And then AL?
I don't know. See, this is why we didn't go with the name. Because if we're confused, you're going to be confused.
Yep.
Because we came up with this dumb shit.
Okay, so we should...
Let's try a different intro. Osmosis. The brain is like a permeable membrane.
And we're cousins.
And we're cousins. What do we know about things that we've never seen before?
That's what this show's about.
Yes.
So basically, we both really like listening to podcasts, and we decided we wanted to do a podcast. So our idea kind of evolved over time to become, we would watch or listen to different types of media like TV shows or movies or even video games or podcasts or whatever that either one of us has listened to, or one of us has like consumed the media and the other one has not, or neither one of us has, but it's something popular, or one of us or both of us have seen it, but not since we were very young children, and so we don't necessarily have a good memory or accurate idea of what it was like.
Yeah, so this podcast is a two-part podcast, or like two phases.
Mm-hmm.
The first phase is us trying to explain things that we don't remember or don't know anything about, and the second half is a just summary of what we've watched.
Yes, like our reactions. Yeah, we don't really know what we're doing, and we're just kind of sitting in front of this microphone in my messy room with this like really awkwardly tall, skinny table between us. On
it's very awkward.
Folding chairs from my garage.
I can see the sides of your face, but not the front of your face.
Yep.
This is good podcasting, just describing what we're looking
Describing
at.
what we're seeing. So...
Okay, let's get going.
Yeah.
I've brought our first movie. You can't see, but I'm gesturing like I'm holding the movie.
Even though you didn't actually physically bring the movie.
No, but I'm gesturing anyway. It's called acting, prop work.
I'll go with that.
I've brought Kiki's Delivery Service. This movie, Studio Ghibli movies in general, were a big part of my childhood. I actually own all the discs of these, so we don't even have to pirate this one. We can, like, legitimately watch it. Kiki's Delivery Service. I don't really want to say anything else because I want you to try to describe Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about Kiki's Delivery Service, but I have been told by many people that it is a movie I would like. I've been told that it's very cute and happy and fun, and it's, from the images I've seen of it, it's very much my aesthetic.
What would you describe that aesthetic as?
Like, cute, kind of classic anime in a way, but like, I don't know, like preppy, cutesy. I picture lots of Peter Pan collars on, like, dresses, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, she's got that classic, like, black...
Yes,
like,
describe the titular Kiki,
dress.
please.
That cute black dress. And she's got a cat, and I love cats.
That is true.
I actually have a little Beanie Baby plush of her cat, which I believe is named Jiji or something like that.
It might be that.
I don't remember.
I haven't seen this in a while.
I don't remember the name of the cat. I didn't know the name of the cat when I bought the plush. I just knew that I would probably love Kiki's Delivery Service when I saw it. So I was like, I already love the way this cat looks. I'll just buy it now. And that was probably like 2 years ago.
Good.
And then I never got around to watching the movie. And then we started talking about doing this podcast and mentioned this as a movie we would watch. So I haven't watched it since then. But yeah, from what I know, she's a witch.
Yes.
And she delivers, like, stuff. I think maybe newspapers, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like, stuff, like, she has, like, a paper route, but she's a witch.
Okay.
And she delivers stuff on her broom. And people know her in the neighborhood, and they're like, "Hi, Kiki," and she flies past.
I do think there's a trailer where that happens.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer, like, so many times. Because it was in a lot of, like, it was a trailer in a lot of movies that I watched as a child, but I never actually watched any of the Studio Ghibli movies until I was an adult. The first one I ever watched was My Neighbor Totoro, and I loved it. But I was, like, in my 20s when I watched it. That was probably, like, a year and a half or 2 years ago.
What other ones have you seen?
I've seen Pocoroso with you, which is your favorite.
Yes, that is my favorite.
It was very delightful. Odd, but delightful. And then
I feel like that is Studio Ghibli things in
right,
general.
right.
Odd but delightful is a good description.
Here's the thing. I may have misspoken when I said that My Neighbor Totoro was the first one I saw. Is Spirited Away Studio Ghibli?
Yes.
I saw that as a child. I remember nothing about it except that it scared the bejesus out of me, and I didn't like it.
I can believe that. It's not a super happy
Yeah,
movie.
I was like 8 max. I may have been younger, and I didn't handle scary things well as a kid. It was too much for me.
We'll have to watch that one on the podcast
Yes,
as well.
I would love
You
to
can go
watch
into
that
more
one.
detail then. I would like you to try and guess the plot of Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh my god. Okay, so the plot of Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah.
I've heard it described as a slice of life type of thing, so I'm guessing it doesn't have like a very monumental plot. So my guess, oh geez, I'm gonna guess that Kiki has this paper route and she's a witch, but then some small-minded people move to town and decide that a witch shouldn't deliver papers, and so the town has to band together to support Kiki, and she keeps delivering her papers, and they are all happy.
All right.
The end.
That's certainly a guess.
I'm sure that's very wrong.
It's okay. That's the fun of this. We're going to go watch that movie now, and we'll be back after this musical sting to tell you what we thought.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back.
I hope you liked that musical sting,
Yeah, I'm sure it was great. Yeah, I have watched Kiki's Delivery Service.
as have I.
I actually watched it today because I am a procrastinator.
I did not. I was on top of my things.
Yep.
Jenna, remember how I said, like, I own the physical copy, we don't even have to pirate it? Well, I think we both did.
Yep.
Should we admit that on a podcast?
I don't know.
Well, we'll figure it out. It's probably fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it at double speed, and then you couldn't get your disc drive to work.
Yep.
So we both pirated it and watched slightly different versions. Normally, I prefer subs, but I did dubs this time because I was taking notes at the same time, and didn't want to try to take notes while I was also reading because I didn't think
Yeah.
that would work.
Fair. No, I watched the subbed version. I'm very glad I did. I usually prefer subs. Dubs just like, I don't know, they just lack something. They're not the original.
I can understand that. Also, you can't tell the voice acting's bad when you can't speak the language.
Exactly.
So I think we should start by just going over the movie. My first note about the movie was, God, this is beautiful.
I know. Okay, that was the first thing I thought as soon as it turned on. I was like, oh my gosh. The second it started, I was just captivated. I felt like I just could not look away because it was just gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, and it commits to like an aesthetic in a very pleasing way where
Yeah.
everything looks like it fits really well.
Yeah, and it's definitely my aesthetic. I was right about that.
Yeah. I have my notes. The first thing that happens is Kiki listens to the weather.
She stole her dad's radio to listen to the weather.
Yes. I also have something here that looks like it says Ruparts, which doesn't mean anything. So I'm assuming that's not what I wrote, but I don't know what it was that I did write. I wrote down that the cat is named Jiji. You were correct.
Yes, I was correct. Although I pictured it being spelled with 2 G's and it's spelled with 2 J's.
Yes, that is
But
correct.
that doesn't really make a difference for
No.
how you say it.
The cat is so small.
I know! That I was like, that cannot be a full-grown cat. That is a kitten.
Gigi
but it's
is
not.
a tiny cat. I also wrote, cool witch mom is cool, because in the next scene
Oh,
she's talking to
yeah.
her mom and saying that she's going to leave tonight
Yep.
for her witch journey. The children goes off on journey by themselves is kind of a thing that shows up, I think, in Japanese media a lot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Pokemon specifically. It definitely shows up in Pokemon. This
Yeah.
is very much the plot of Pokemon.
I think it's really cool how when Kiki is leaving, you see her interacting with all of her friends, and that's a moment when you really see that the movie has a good portrayal of young teens.
Kiki is such a good portrayal of, like, a young girl. We see her, like, pining over getting excited to see boys in this new city, and she, like, climbs into a hay cart and is just so excited about sleeping in some hay.
Yeah. She has that idealistic outlook about the world that you only have if you haven't seen very much of the world.
But also in a lot of children's media, it's like, this person is 16, but she looks like an adult or something. Or like, the children are, like, sexualized in an uncomfortable way where
Yeah.
they look like adults. She and her friends look 13, and...
Yeah. And they act 13,
Yeah,
too.
Kiki is such a goober.
She is!
She's like a little goober talking about how she's like, excited to go, like, meet boys, and...
Yeah. The Little Mermaid, for example, she's supposed to be 16, And you get the kind of dynamic where she's like fighting with her dad about stuff, but then at the end it's like, oh, but she was right.
It's just weird.
Which is kind of like, no, she was dumb.
Yeah, as you get older, the more children's movies, you're like, no, I'm here with the, like, cranky adults on this one. Like,
Yeah.
no, you shouldn't leave home at 16 and go get married. That's crazy.
Yeah. Completely abandon everything you've ever known.
I think it's just, there's like a disconnect often because children's media isn't written by children. It's written by adults who only kind of remember what it was like to be a kid. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how well this, and in my opinion, other Studio Ghibli films that like have children as main characters actually like capture the essence of childhood in a way.
Yeah. They get the way that kids see the world slightly differently and that they are not adults.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just because I watched this when I was a kid that it helps, but like, it definitely brings me back to, like, when I thought that way, partly because that's when I originally watched it. But.
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't watch these as kids, and at the same time, I was watching this and I was like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like to be 13. I definitely thought a little bit more like that than I do now.
Yeah. It's something that's really special about this and movies like it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then after that hayride, and after she wakes up, the train is coming up to a town, which she decides is, like, the town that she's going to live in.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big town. It's by the coast.
Which is exactly what she was looking for.
Yeah, it's got cable cars. It kind of reminded me a little bit of San Francisco.
Yeah, I thought that too.
But it's also, that's the city we live closest to, so we might be a little biased.
We're thinking of city by the ocean with cable cars.
And also, like, buildings close together and pretty hilly, so we're a little biased, but... Yeah. I think it probably took inspiration from a lot of different cities.
Oh, yeah.
And probably some, like, European cities as well.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it had a lot of European inspiration. The big clock and the rolling green hills right by the ocean kind of made me think of, like, Ireland or Scotland. Just gorgeous.
Kiki comes into this town, and they don't have a witch, which is great, so that she can live here, but she does run into some trouble where they don't seem to, like, know much about witches, and she, like, immediately runs from the cops because she got in, like, a traffic accident, sort of, which, the first thing she does is, like, I'm in trouble with the law, I'm gonna run away, and then she meets Bike Boy, who distracts the cops for her, and she runs the fuck away.
Yeah. She's like, you're rude, even though you helped me, because I didn't ask you to help me.
Yeah.
And then she leaves. I love that he says to that, you're funny, you sound like my grandma. But, like, he says it in such a way that even though this would be an insulting thing to hear, you can tell he so does not mean it as an insult.
No,
he's just saying it. And, like, later again, he says, like, oh, I told you all she wears is black. And she gets really embarrassed. And you can tell he wasn't trying to embarrass or insult her. He was literally just pointing out the fact that, oh, hey, she only wears black. That's interesting and cool.
They both act like young teenagers. It's great.
Also, really quick backtracking. I just think it was really interesting that when she first gets there, she's like, hey, I'm a witch. I'm new here and I need a place to stay. And everybody just kind of ignores her. And to me, that just made me think of how, like, when you ask a larger group of people to do something, you're less likely to get somebody to say yes. Because everybody there is like, oh, well, somebody else will say yes to it. Mm-hmm. Which has been, like, something that's been proven by psychologists where, like, if somebody witnesses a crime, but it's a large group of people and the person says, somebody help me, it's less likely for somebody to help them because everyone in the crowd assumes someone else will do it. Whereas if they say, you over there in the red shirt, help me, they're more likely to actually help.
Interesting.
So since Kiki's like, will anybody let me stay with them? Everybody's like, ha ha ha, cool, bye.
She ends up near a bakery where there is a very pregnant woman who is works at the bakery, whose name is Osono.
Yeah.
Who realizes that a woman with a baby forgot a pacifier at the bakery. And so she, like, flies it down to them. And at this point in the movie, I was sitting in the room while you were listening to it, and you exclaimed, the baby has a mohawk.
Yeah, it does. I was like, why does that baby have a mohawk?
He does kind of have a mohawk.
It's like, I understand babies have sparse hair sometimes, but this baby had really thick, full hair, but only in the middle of his head. And that's not how hair works. So that woman clearly shaved her baby's head to look like a mohawk. And that is an interesting choice.
I'm glad we've come to that conclusion. And I think Osono offers to live with her. And she also just hires a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Which I guess is fine.
Yeah. I mean, what she's hiring her for is something that a 13-year-old would be qualified to do.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's like help out in the bakery.
Mm-hmm. it's amazing how in this movie the people feel almost impossibly real to me. Mm-hmm. Like, so many movies, when I watch them, I, like, enjoy the characters, but don't feel the characters are real. Mm-hmm. Like, not in the way that this movie does to me. And I think Studio Ghibli movies in general do for me. But these people feel like people I know, or people I would be. And they felt that way when I was a kid, and I think that's why they were so special to me as a kid, is because so much of children's media doesn't feel real. It's very fantastical, which, as much, even now, I prefer fantasy than to, like, fiction to nonfiction. But this is a fiction thing that the people still feel real in, and I think it's something really special.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's something special about feeling like you're in a whole different world where everything functions differently, but there's also something really unique about feeling like this is just real life. Like, in other children's media, I might relate to the main characters, but I don't feel like I know them in real life, or like I could possibly know them in real life. They're part of a different world. And I might feel like I'm part of that world while I'm watching the movie or the TV show. But with Kiki's delivery service, it doesn't feel like a different world. It just feels like our world, which is kind of comforting and like warm fuzzies kind of feeling inside.
And it's really impressive that they were able to do that with a world that isn't real and like is explicitly like magic is real and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's an animated thing. They're not even real people.
Mm-hmm. And like, all the characters feel super real, not just Kiki, not just Jiji, not just Osono, or who's the baker, or like, not just the main characters, but like her husband, who I don't even think has like a name in the thing, and who has like 2 lines, feels really real. He's like a nervous guy who doesn't talk very much.
Yeah.
Just little bits of characterization are amazing. Or when the old woman like pretends to fly on Kiki's broom.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much they can do with like even just the smallest of characters to make them feel like real people.
Agreed.
Our next scene is after Kiki has come up with a place to live.
Yeah.
She goes to a store to buy some food and stuff. And Jiji notices a mug with a black cat on it and is like, hey, this looks like me.
Yeah.
And then Kiki buys it.
Of course.
Along with the rest of her food. They don't make a big deal out of it, but I noticed it.
Yeah, me too. And she's drinking out of it later when Jiji comes up and like eats breakfast with her. Mm-hmm.
We then see Bike Boy again. Bike Boy and his friends driving a car.
Yeah, I was like, okay, one of them is clearly not 13, or the rules here are very different.
I think the rules there are very lax, because I know like in Europe some places you can kind of just drive whenever and they don't. Because also they're all like standing in the car together.
Oh yeah.
And also it's a very beat up car, so I think it's just a place where the rules are laxer.
Yeah. Also, the setting of the movie overall is like definitely not in modern times.
No, definitely not.
You know, there's
dirigibles.
Yeah.
We then see Bike Boy goes up. I have a note here. Bike Boy goes up to Osono and sees Kiki taking off for her first delivery.
Yeah.
Hey, Bike Boy, whose name is Tombo, and I feel like maybe we should call him Tombo because that's just a wild name. That his name
really
is Tombo.
is.
Asking strangers what they can tell you about a girl is creepy.
She has to deliver the toy that Jiji looks at and goes, oh, "It's me."
Yeah, the toy is a cat. A small black cat in like a bird cage that looks exactly like Jiji.
Yes.
As you can assume, that comes into the plot.
Yes.
Kiki is flying over some, is flying and there are some birds and she's flying and Jiji tells her, which we now know that Jiji can talk to other animals.
Yes.
That there's going to be an updraft and the birds tell her this and so she goes flying and like the thing goes falling and it falls into some crow's nests and the crows get very unhappy with her.
Because they think she's trying to steal their eggs.
Yeah. And I made a note.
She lands near them.
Yeah. And I made a note that you can see that the cat is missing before Kiki notices.
Oh,
so since I had seen this movie before, I was looking for that.
It.
And you can see that it flaps open and that the thing isn't there before Kiki notices.
Good. Attention to detail.
Then she takes it to the place and, okay. Well, you can probably guess what happens. Jiji has to replace the toy.
Yes. And I think it's really a lot to ask of a cat. To say, like, sit perfectly still.
Jiji is a very smart cat.
Yes, Jiji is a very good cat, too.
He's a very good cat and can be explained to.
Yeah.
It's very good.
He's very loyal.
Mm-hmm. The small child who they brought the gift to, because it was for, like, a little boy, wants to put a canary in the bird cage instead.
Yeah.
And so he, like, takes the toy out and, like, drops it on the ground. And there's a big dog there that looks like a good dog.
Yes, and we learn it is a good dog. And I like that Jiji gets all nervous when he notices the dog, like, oh, I'm gonna have to sit still and there's this dog here. What if it tries to chase me? Like, you can see everything going through his head just from, like, the one little look that he gives.
Yeah. I did make a note that birdcage is very small and too small for birds, and the birdcage it was in before is too small for birds, and that is not healthy environments for birds, and they should have bigger cages. Just so you know.
Yes.
While this is going on, Kiki goes back to the woods to try to find the toy, and she finds it in a cabin. And the cabin, there's like an artist girl who lives there.
Yeah,
whose name
I love the artist girl.
I looked up her name, and now I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a cool artist girl who lives in the woods by herself. She wears shorts and like a tank top, and she's got like red hair. I'm describing her because I think she's cute.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think she's adorable.
She's very cool.
I love her. She has this wide-brimmed hat when she goes to see Kiki later, and it's just this kind of like, it looks like a really well-worn, well-loved straw hat. And I really love it. It fits her character, her like artsy, like free-spirited character really well.
It's nice. She gives the thing back, and it does take a while because it's ripped, so she offers to sew it in exchange for Kiki like scrubbing the floors a little bit, which is interesting. We then see Kiki go back to that place, and we see the dog is like taking care of the Jiji toy.
I thought it was hilarious and super cute that the dog was like, "Oh, I will just snuggle you."
Yeah. So the dog picks up Jiji and like carries him outside, and then we find out that the dog has been in on this and can talk. Yeah. And his name is Jeff.
Yes.
And I wrote here, Jiji and Jeff, BFFs.
Yeah. I love that the way that it was subbed in the one that I watched is, "That marvelous dog helped me escape." And I just think that's a great line. I think it's really amazing the way that the animation captures how real Jiji looks. Like, I was watching that and I just think, that's a cat. Like, it doesn't even seem like an animated cat, even though obviously it's an animated cat. It doesn't have the correct proportions, and we already said he's like way too tiny to be an adult cat. But the way he moves, I've never seen a cartoon cat move like that in a way that it's just so realistically cat-like. I'm not sure exactly how they captured this cat's, like, the essence of felines, but they sort of just did. Feline essence just bottled.
Essence de feline.
I'd wear that. No, I wouldn't. That would smell horrible.
I remember one time I saw online there was like a spray that smelled like cat, like that someone made that smelled like the top of cat's head, because you know if you smell the top of a cat's head, it's got a specific smell. I saw somewhere online that someone made a spray of that. This might be cut.
No, I think this is staying in. Essence de feline.
I now have blushing cat with 3 exclamation points.
Yeah.
I thought that was very important that Jiji blushed.
Yeah. He blushes and he sweats.
Yeah. I also have later down this list, Jiji is such a nervous boy.
He is. Anytime somebody like winks at him. Also, why do people keep winking at the cat?
I can think of one of the other times the baker guy winks at the cat, which I also have written down that it is great that he's showing off for the cat. I say baker guy showing off for cat is very good.
Yes.
But I don't remember.
His wife also.
Does she also wink at him?
Yeah, she winks at the cat when she first meets him. She's like, wink, and then the cat is like, what?
I also, my next note is, I still want a cat that hangs out on my shoulder.
Right? I've always wanted that. My cat, I tried to get her to ride on my shoulder, but now she's just too big.
Yeah, it happens. Gigi's a small cat. We've established this.
Yeah.
So Asono's husband, who I didn't realize I forgot was her husband until the very, very end. He doesn't talk very much throughout the whole thing. But we see he baked a thing that like looks like Kiki in like a wreath and like has her name on it, and he was like standing there pacing, waiting for her to come back, and then when he sees her coming, he like runs and is like pretending he wasn't like waiting for her, and it's just like a very relatable moment.
He's one of my favorite characters in the movie because he says like 2 things, and the things that he says are like 1 syllable at a time. Like at one point he says look and points. And then another time I think he says like, huh? And that's almost all he says. But at the same time, he's just such an expressive character who you really do get to know, even though he doesn't talk.
She then goes to do her next delivery, which is with a group of old women, and I have, these old women are so good!
I love them so much. They're so nice and, like, adorable. They remind me of old people that I've met in my life.
They're so good. It's like an older woman and, like, her maid, maybe?
Yeah.
I think that's the implication.
Yeah, is that she works for her.
Yeah. But they also seem like friends. And
like, maybe she's worked for her for many years, and so they've developed a sort of kinship.
But she's like baking a pie for her granddaughter's birthday, but she's like, oh no, it's not, we can't do it because I can't get the oven to work. And like you said about the electricity thing. So Kiki helps her make the pie in the oven. Mm-hmm. But this is the time where she was supposed to go to a thing with Bike Boy.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's like this tension of like, she's helping these old people, but also has to go with Bike Boy.
That whole tension in that scene was very relatable to me because she didn't actually have to help those old women. They said they would just pay her and it would be fine because it wasn't her fault that the pie wasn't ready. She wasn't being hired to help them bake a pie, but she decided to because she felt like it was wrong to accept money for a job she didn't do. And I found that very relatable because I often will be like, my inclination is to go above and beyond in any sort of work situation, even if it sacrifices my social life, even when I don't have to.
She really goes above and beyond because not only does she help bake the pie, or maybe it's like a cobbler. It's got a fish on it, so I don't think it's actually a pie.
It's a herring and pumpkin pie, which sounds disgusting.
To be fair, the girl who got it was not very grateful, so I was feeling it might not be good. But she also, like, does stuff around the house, and she, like, changes the light bulbs, and I have a note that Jiji holds one in his mouth, and it's very good.
Yes.
It's very cute.
Oh, also, one of the old women, the one who's a maid or whatever, tries to fly on Kiki's broom at one point.
Or, like, pretends to fly on Kiki's broom.
Yeah, pretends to fly on Kiki's broom.
That was very good.
And when she first holds the broom and sees Jiji, she goes, a black cat and a broom, just like my grandmother told me, or something like that.
Yeah, so we know that there haven't been witches in this town in a really long time. I also wrote here that even in the dub, the voice acting is really good, because when Kiki gets home, it's like pouring rain, she's delivered the thing, and Bike Boy has waited for her for a long time, but already left. She walks towards her room in the rain, and Osono is like, what are you doing? And she like says a thing, and it's like, it doesn't matter, because I couldn't even go, because my clothes are so wet anyway.
Yeah.
And it really sounds like she's about to cry, and even in the dub, which generally have worse voice acting, but it was good, and it was like a meaningful moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I related to Kiki a lot in that whole situation where she's trying to pick between doing her job really well and also taking care of herself. And I often choose doing my job really well, maybe even more than I need to, over taking care of myself. And it can lead to you just getting sick in bed and then not being able to do your job at all.
Exactly, like Kiki.
Yes.
I see where you're going with this. What a wonderful transition.
I was just, pointing out how that was extremely relatable because I have in the past worked myself into the ground and become sick and then not been able to do anything and been like, oh, well, if I had just taken better care of myself, I actually would have gotten more work done. Because I wouldn't have gotten sick.
Luckily, Osono is there to help take care of her. I did write here heterosexual cats, because this is the point where Jiji goes out the window, and there was a pretty white cat that he already met there, but that he now goes to visit.
Yes.
Whose name is Lily, which you
is my cat's
up.
name. Although this cat looks nothing like Lily, and Jiji is a lot more like
She's
Lily.
Like
a Persian.
Yes, that is the word I was looking for. She's like a Persian cat. And you can tell she's a lady because she has eyelashes.
Yep. Also, Persian cats in children's animation are almost exclusively female.
That's true.
Because they're very pretty cats.
Yep. She then, gets better, or kind of better, and she goes to, I think, is this the part where Osono gives her a delivery for Bike Boy?
Yes.
This is the part where Osono is like, here's a delivery to get you back on your feet.
Because Bike Boy was asking about her while she was sick, and it wanted to come see her, and she was like, oh my gosh, no, I'm in my PJs in bed. Don't let a boy see me.
So, Osono does a tricksy thing and gives her delivery for Bike Boy. Now is when we learn his name is Tombo, which I do have written down with some question marks here, because I was like, Tombo, that's a weird name. Yeah. But it's fine. Names are names are weird. We have already learned that he is president of the flight club of some sort.
Oh, we had?
Yes, we already learned
the
it at
flying
this point.
club because of the party.
Yeah, that was the party that she was going to go to, which Kiki can fly on a broom, so there's a thing there.
Yes.
And the party was to celebrate the fact that he has this bike that he's strapped a propeller to.
Yes, and it's going to be a plane eventually, but this is just step one in the process.
Yes, and that's a bike propeller that can be pedaled, and I have propeller bike is good written here, because he's made this bike with a propeller on it.
I like that he takes it for a ride after that, even though it's not supposed to be able to fly yet, so it just is basically like a bike with a big heavy thing on it, so it's just making it harder
He's
to
showing
move.
off to Kiki.
Yes, very clearly. He's like, well, I gotta get my legs all buff.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta practice. And then at one point she's like, should I get off? Because he's really struggling. And he's like, no! He's trying so hard.
I do have a note here that when he talks, there's voice modulation because of the thing is in front of his mouth. The propeller's in front of his mouth, so it sounds like when you're talking into a fan. That's something that I
really
thought about
good.
and did. Which
I wonder if they put a fan in front of the voice actor.
it's possible.
Or if they did it digitally.
Either way. They could have done it either way.
Yeah.
Then they crashed the thing, and
Because it started to fly at one point.
yeah, it started to fly, which maybe was related to Kiki, maybe wasn't.
Yeah,
it's not really
clear if she did the magic or if it was just weird physics.
Yeah. My next note is losing magic really comes out of nowhere, because the next plot point is that Kiki loses her ability to do her magic.
Yeah.
I think she first noticed she can't talk to Jiji anymore. She can't fly her broom, and Jiji
It was
seems
first
to
with
be.
Jiji.
Yeah, she noticed with Jiji first. And she can't fly her broom anymore. And Jiji also seems like less friendly with her. And
Yeah.
it's not clear if it's because now that she can't talk to him, he's less smart and sentient than he was,
Yeah.
or if it's because he's got this lady friend cat that he wants to hang out with. It's like intentionally vague.
Yeah.
It's also intentionally vague whether she lost this like because she was sick or because of something else.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes out of nowhere because there was later it makes sense why the explanation they give, but it's not an explanation they foreshadowed at all. Because the explanation that they give, and this is Artist Girl comes to meet her and talk to her, which is, you talked about her hat earlier. Artist Girl comes to meet her and is like, you should, and like after learning that Kiki can't do her magic anymore, she's like, you should come with me. And we end up getting a scene where it talks about it as a relation to like artist's block or writer's block.
Yeah.
And because she doesn't have an inspiration, she's not good at magic right now.
Yeah.
And we did hear at the beginning that most witches pick a specialty, but we didn't get that as like a plot point or like as that this is what you're supposed to be doing, Kiki. So it seems a little out of the blue. And this is my biggest like problem with the movie.
Yeah. To me, it seemed more like a stress thing where she just completely lost confidence in herself. And she even like talks about how she like doesn't have confidence. And that's another thing that can be a part of like artists and writer's block is if you don't think that you can do it well, you're less likely to actually be able to do it well. So like sort of her anxiety over not being able to perform as well as she'd like to with her delivery service, I think carries over into her ability to do magic because she doesn't believe in herself.
Yeah, I definitely have written down that her depression, anxiety stuff is super relatable.
Yes.
As someone who's like seriously struggled with motivation to be able to do things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even that didn't feel like the depression, anxiety stuff, even though it makes a lot of sense and it feels like a very true representation of that, even that isn't super clearly foreshadowed or like hinted at in the beginning of it, because it seems like everything is going well and that she's not really having trouble, and then suddenly it falls apart, which I know that does happen, but normally there is internal feelings before that, and we didn't get any of those, which I wish we had, because I feel like that's a really interesting and maybe an important thing to like show people that this happens sometimes.
Yeah. I think to me, in some ways, it was even more relatable because there was less foreshadowing. Because a lot of the time with my anxiety, it sneaks up on me where I'll think everything is going well, but there's a lot of little things that build up that you don't notice all at once. And then suddenly I'm having a panic attack and I'm like, where is this coming from? What's happening? And then when I sit down and process and talk through what I've been going through with myself or with someone else, I realize that I've actually been pretty stressed for a while and it wasn't at the forefront of my mind because I was doing so many other things, which to me seemed like what was happening with Kiki, where she was just so busy with doing so many things, she didn't realize how much the stress was getting to her.
Yeah, I just wish we had seen that as maybe like...
Yeah.
Like, I understand that is how it happens, but that's not a good way to tell stories.
Yeah.
I wish that we had seen, like, maybe that she was predisposed to that kind of thing in some way.
Yeah.
Or something similar. Like, maybe just even a line where, like, her parents, it'll be good for her to, like, get out, especially, like, with what happened last year, or, like, she's been so stressed or something, or, like, something like that.
Yeah. It seemed to me more like this was her first experience with, like, depression, anxiety.
Yeah, just, like, anything to make it seem, like, more of a clear story thing.
Yeah.
Rather than just, like, super out of the blue sort of situation. Because I get that it's an overwhelming situation, but even she didn't seem super overwhelmed or anything. Next thing that happens is the very good old ladies come back.
Yes.
Because she gets another delivery, because she's still doing her delivery service, even though she's doing it on foot now. That's part of why we don't know. One thing that is when she brought the delivery to Tombo, she didn't take her broom, so we don't know if it happened. It it's kind of implied that maybe it happened because of her sickness.
Yeah.
But the old ladies come back and it's like feigned as a delivery, but it's like when she opens it, it's like a cake for her with her name on it.
Yeah.
And the old lady is like, maybe you could tell me maybe the little girl could tell me her birthday so that I could bring her gifts then.
Yeah.
And then she's like, and maybe I'd like to know the old lady's birthday also so that I could bring her a gift too. And it's very
cute.
sweet.
I love the intergenerational friendship because I think intergenerational relationships are really important and they get undervalued a lot of the times because people are so encouraged to like hang out with people their age, which is good and important. But it's also really good and important to have friends who are of a different generation than you because it can create these really unique relationships where you learn from each other in really special ways.
Yeah. It's good to like know a lot of different people.
Yeah.
The next thing that happens is we find out we have seen for a while a Zeppelin that Tombo was really excited about that it's going to be taking off and doing inaugural flights and stuff, and test flights. And we saw Tombo in it like for one of the test flights, but there's a lot of big winds, high winds, and the other old woman turns on the TV and it's like, oh, there's super high winds and it's blowing the Zeppelin everywhere.
Yeah.
The blimp I don't know what the difference between a blimp and a Zeppelin is. The airship. I think they even call it an airship, but
I think they call it a dirigible too.
do they? I don't remember. It's blowing it everywhere, and they're like trying to hold it down, but they can't. And we see this old lady is very excited by the accident and the carnage, which is also very good.
Yeah. Same one who was really excited about Kiki's broom.
Mm-hmm. But we see that it like flies up and it's like tied to a police car, and we see that Tombo is the only one still holding onto the rope and gets like pulled into the air.
So then Kiki has to go do something. She has to like go track him down.
She has to like try to use her magic.
Yeah.
This is the big intense moment of the show, like the movie, to the point where like I didn't take a lot of notes on it because I was pretty focused.
Yeah, definitely the climax of the story.
Yeah, it's like there's a big like set piece about the blimp flying around and Tombo trying to hold on, and the car falls off and Kiki runs through the street. The tension in the final scene where Kiki has to catch Tombo is just like chef's kiss fantastic.
Oh yeah.
They do an amazing job. Like, oh god, it's hard to describe how good this is without you watching it.
It's so like sensory and like I want to say visceral, but that sounds wrong.
I think it's right though. I think it's visceral.
It's visceral. It's just like deep down in your gut, you just feel it. It's like you're watching this happen.
And it's the combination of the animation and of like Kiki like trying to fly, but she keeps falling and just like barely being able to stay alive. And her like reaching for Tombo, and then like when he falls, the music cuts out.
Yeah, it's silent, and you can like still see people cheering, but like they're silent.
Hear it. And Kiki catches him like partway through the air, and saves him. And they like slowly, and she's like hanging off the broom, holding onto it with one arm, and holding onto him with one arm.
Which, by the way, I've seen that like picture before because I think it's in the preview of her holding onto him like that. Which, as an afterthought, is a terrible thing to put in a preview because that's so spoilery.
Yeah, it might be in the preview.
Yeah,
we can check later. But they like slowly lower down, and everyone's like cheering, like yay! Hooray! It's like, it's impossibly well timed. Like, everything about it is just crafted in such a perfect way to make a very perfect scene. One of the most perfect scenes in this movie, and maybe one of the most perfect scenes in things at all. It's just...
I'm literally getting chills just thinking about it. Like, I have literal goosebumps right now.
It's fantastic. If you are listening to this and you don't plan on seeing Kiki's Delivery Service, or, you know what? No. Everyone, pause this podcast. Go online. Search, like, Kiki's Delivery Service final scene, or whatever. Find the scene where she's saving Tombo, do it now, and come back to us.
Also, if you're not willing to listen to or watch Kiki's Delivery Service, please just, like, go away. It's worth your time. Okay, well, no. I can't afford to say that. Please listen to our podcast. But also, watch Kiki's Delivery Service.
I think Kiki's Delivery Service doesn't need our help. I think
That's
it's
true.
Good, but
if for some reason you have a weird hatred for Kiki's Delivery Service, just watch it again.
Give it a second chance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Kiki
glad you
would.
Kiki would. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. And then she writes home.
Yeah, there's a little end sequence where it says like what happens next. Jiji runs up to her. In the original English dub, they added a line that made it seem like Jiji could talk again. But in the original thing, he can't talk again.
He can't talk again. Or he at least doesn't.
I think that I was reading about this because I was reading about the differences between the different versions to try to figure out which version I was watching. Mm-hmm. And they said they added a lot of things to make it more wholesome. Like they changed she gets offered coffee at one point, and they're like, "It's hot chocolate." Or like, I think they add a line when artist girl is taking her, they hitchhike, and I think they add a line that's like, "It's okay, I know that guy." Like,
I don't think she
doesn't in the sub.
Oh yeah, no, she doesn't. But they might take out the line where he's like, "I thought you were a boy," and she was like, "What do you mean I thought I was a boy? What boy has legs like this?"
Yeah. In the dub I watched, they had that, which is part of why I was looking to try to figure out which version I had.
Got it.
But they add a line where Jiji, it can like talk to her again.
Yeah.
But I think when I was reading it, they said that the reason that they don't is because Jiji is supposed to represent her immature personality, and that now she's grown out of her talking cat.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's what I read on Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt.
See, I took it as like, at the end, the only thing Jiji does is meow.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, like, well, Jiji can meow even when she can understand him. Sometimes he just meows. And so I thought it was supposed to be like, well, can she understand her cat again or not? Like, who knows?
Yeah. There's like an end sequence which shows us like what happens to all the people.
Yeah.
Bakers have like a child.
Yeah, they have their
cute.
baby.
Gigi and the Lily have some kittens.
Yeah, and they're adorable.
They're so small.
One of them just looks like tiny Gigi, and Kiki takes them both on deliveries.
Yeah, like Gigi has like a string tied to that cat and is like training that cat to like be a witch's cat, which is adorable. The baby's
I loved
born.
him holding the string in his mouth while his little child is like running around on the end of the broom.
Yeah. Kiki gets, like, set up with, like, her delivery service. They, like, make a sign. Tombo gets his plane. And then her parents get a letter from her. And she's like, everything is good. And then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. I like that in her letter to her parents, she says, "I still sometimes get sad, but I really love this town."
Which is good.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. What did you think overall?
Overall, I thought it was beautiful. And just... it was the perfect lazy day movie. Like, it's definitely a movie I would watch if I was sick in bed, or it was rainy, or I just wanted to feel better.
That's a good thing. I have the same feelings about it that I did previously. This didn't change my viewing of it. It's still like a real formative part of my childhood and something that I like super enjoy watching, and like one of my favorite children's movies. Studio Ghibli movies are overall my favorite children's movies and like the things that I remember most fondly from when I'm a kid. And I'm not a huge nostalgia person. They're probably the things I feel the most nostalgic for.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the movie?
Whew, that's a hard...
It can just be a little tiny thing even.
Yeah, I didn't have like a favorite section of the movie, but my favorite like aspect of the movie.
Literally anything. It could be Gigi's very cute.
My favorite aspect of the movie was just overall the way it made me feel. There was the one scene where she wakes up really early in the morning and she rushes down to the outhouse to use the bathroom. And then like just the way that the world looks as she's leaving super early in the morning, it's just like, oh yeah, that's what an early morning feels like. Yeah. You wake up and it's like really early in the morning. And I really love early mornings. So I was just watching that and being like, oh yeah, that's nice. It's an early morning. The movie was really good at tapping into my senses and making me almost feel like I was there. And also just appealing to these parts of me that I don't think about very often. And it just made me remember what it was like to be 13 also. Because it represents what the perspective of a 13-year-old really well. Even just her going down to use the outhouse, and then when she starts to leave, she realizes the husband's out there, and she gets all awkward and closes the door because she's in her night clothes. So she's like, oh, I don't want this, like, new person to see me in my pajamas.
This handsome man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even though her pajamas cover more of her than her regular clothes, but they're still her pajamas. And that's just so relatable, like, as a little young teenager just being so self-conscious, like, no, I don't want them to see me in my pajamas. I'll hide.
That's good.
And so that scene stuck out to me a lot, just as the relatability of it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think my favorite part is... it's hard. Yeah. I kind of want to say the aesthetic, but, like, that's true of, like, all Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
But I think that's my favorite. It's just how they look and how the way they look makes me feel. Mm-hmm. They are committed to a specific aesthetic in a way that I really appreciate. Yeah. Where they look a specific way and everything fits in the way that looks.
I was going to say, it's not just that the aesthetic is good, it's that the plot and characters and environment all fit with the aesthetic.
There is like a commitment there to like a wholeness of product that is something that I really appreciate. I really appreciate things that go hard with like a single thing. And I think that's my favorite part. Now, What was your least favorite part?
Least favorite part.
It can be anything, like
Yeah.
even small things.
My least favorite part. Honestly, I didn't like that at the end the cat couldn't talk to her again. I was sad. I was like, but they were best friends.
I had a feeling this was going to be the thing.
Like,
that
they
you
were
gonna
best
say.
friends, which is why I choose to see it as ambiguous, and that Jiji just chose to meow. That's my decision. And I don't like the whole, like, oh, well, the cat symbolizes her immaturity that Wikipedia does. No, that's just her best friend. And she's a witch. She has magic.
I knew that was going to be the thing
Yeah.
to say. I knew it. I think the thing that is my least favorite is that if they were trying to, like, now that I watched it when I was older, I see, like, Kiki having depression and anxiety as more of
Yeah.
a clear thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I was a kid, that's not something I totally understood. And
You
even
just
though,
thought she was sad.
yeah, and even though when I had, like, depression and anxiety stuff when I was pretty young, I didn't have the, like, capacity to recognize it in other people as well.
Yeah.
And
Or to know how it worked.
yeah.
even.
I wished that they had gone harder on that. Like, I
Yeah.
wish that it had been more clear, even when I was a kid, or, like, more clear even now, because even now I'm not, like, 100% sure that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
But that's definitely what it feels like. I wish that they had been clear about that.
Yeah.
And that was my least favorite part, is that they didn't, like, because I think a lot of it is really good and it goes clear on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I wish they had, like, stuck to their guns harder on that bit.
Yeah.
Okay, who was your favorite character?
I mean, it's gonna sound obvious, but Kiki was definitely my favorite character. I just relate to her really on a deep level, I think.
Why? Tell me more.
I feel like that's... If I had been a little bit more independent and less scared when I was 13, I feel like I just would have been Kiki. Just the way that she looks at the world reminds me of when I was young. Being, like, really, really optimistic. I mean, I'm still a really optimistic and idealistic person, but when I was 13, I was definitely a lot more so. But then she kind of has some things thrown at her, and then we talked about the whole mental health thing. She starts to lose her magic, and it's partly because she's venturing out and seeing more of the world, and she's realizing that things aren't exactly the way that she thought they would be. And I think it was around that age that I first started having those types of experiences where, like, this rosy worldview that I had, like, a really amazing childhood where almost nothing went wrong. And then it was when I was 13, right before I turned 13, my grandmother passed away. And that was, like, the first big loss in my life. And then the summer before I went into high school, I, like, went through, like, depression for the first time. I, like, didn't eat for a whole week. Just, it was, like, a weird thing that I had never experienced before. And just having this young girl who has this really optimistic and, like, lively and bubbly attitude towards the world, and then she encounters these things that kind of knock her back a step, but then she gets up and she keeps going. I really relate to that because that's kind of how I felt when I was 13. Who's your favorite character?
I mean, it also has to be Kiki. But I think mine is first. My favorite character is Kiki because this is a treatise on her life. Is treatise the right word?
I think.
Well, it's fine. This is a treatise on her.
Wait, I need to do a Google search real quick.
Okay, we'll find out.
Do, do, do.
This is where we'd put in the musical sting if we had one. If we had our own musical sting, we would be humming our own musical sting instead of Kiki's delivery service. That wasn't even Kiki's delivery service.
It was Jeopardy.
Jeopardy.
So far from Kiki's delivery.
It's so far from Kiki's delivery.
A formal and systematic exposition in writing of the principles of a subject.
That's what I meant.
Generally longer and more detailed than an essay.
That's kind of what
So
I
it's
meant.
not in writing, but, like, basically.
It's the word I was using is the word
Yeah.
that I wanted to use, even if it
Yeah.
wasn't quite right. Kiki's my favorite because this is a treatise on her life. There is no character we know more intimately after watching this than Kiki.
Yeah.
We have a deeper understanding of her that I would not feel... I knew you were going to pick Kiki.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about saying my favorite character was a different character because I didn't want us both to say Kiki, but I could not
Yeah.
I would feel bad doing that.
couldn't do it in good conscience.
No, because...
Fair.
She's the star. She's so perfectly... This movie perfectly encapsulates her in a way that it would be dishonest and ingenuine to say that she was... that anything but her was my favorite character in this.
Fair. Yeah. That's
All right.
a valid point.
What was the most surprising thing to you in this?
I think the way that Kiki reacts to Bike Boy was the most surprising thing to me. Because she was so excited to meet boys. And then she meets one, and the first thing she does is like, I know you helped me, but that was rude because I didn't ask you to help me. Peace out.
I feel like that's part of how real she feels. It's like she's not good at this.
No, it's great. It wasn't a bad surprise.
No,
it was just like I wasn't expecting it. I was like, wait, what?
It's like she's pulling pigtails. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And I think she just also felt so awkward and uncomfortable about the fact that somebody had to help her that she like lashed out in kind of irrational anger. Mm-hmm. What was the most unexpected part to you?
Honestly, it was like the mental illness stuff, because I watched this when I was a kid, and that's not something I picked up on at all, even though, like, I had been having those feelings and stuff, which is part of why it's a little disappointing to me, is because, like, when I watched this probably when I was about 13, like Kiki's age, or even a little younger, I was already sort of having those feelings, and I didn't pick up on it, that it was the same thing that Kiki was feeling, so I wish it had been, like, a little firmer on that, because I think it would have been helpful to me when I was a kid. Yeah. And that's part of why that thing is disappointing. And it was like a huge shock that like, oh, I didn't even realize this was in this movie.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess because for adults watching the movie, they totally pick up on it because they've had the time to place those feelings and process and like learn how to identify that type of feeling.
Even if they hadn't had those feelings, seen them in other people and stuff.
Exactly. But as a child, those feelings are new. Just like I talked about when I was 13. I think 13 is a pretty common age for people to have those types of feelings.
Yeah, it's like
kind
puberty.
Of for the first time,
like...
yeah. And you don't know what they are because you've never had them before. So to have it explicitly spelled out in the movie would have been a lot more helpful, I think, to the child audience. To say, oh, well, Kiki is feeling these things because blah, 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 blah. Instead of just kind of leaving it and not explaining why her magic goes away. I think if I had been a child watching this, I would have been like, I don't get it. Why did her powers go away and then just come back? I don't understand what happened. Did another witch curse her? Like, what happened? Was it Jiji? Did Jiji, like, take away her powers? What happened?
Not Jiji!
Never Jiji! Jiji forever!
All right, for our next episode, we're going to be watching... You want to say it?
We're going to be watching Anastasia.
Which I have never seen.
And I have.
So it's a reverse of what we did this time.
Yep, we're going to try to flip-flop it as much as we can to get an even balance.
All right, follow us on Twitter at Cousin Osmosis. You can find our SoundCloud also at Cousin Osmosis. That's probably where you listen to this. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcatcher, congratulations us. You got it on the podcatchers, because we haven't done that yet.
Yep.
Why don't you shoot us a review? That would be great. I've heard that really helps. I'm not sure, since this is our first episode.
Yeah, and feel free to, like, tweet at us. We will probably have so few followers that we will actually respond back to you. Maybe suggest a TV show or a movie that you want to see us talk about.
Yeah.
So our amazing theme song is by the wonderful Emily Rutherford. You can find her on SoundCloud at Emily Rutherford Music. That's Emily, the normal spelling, and then Rutherford, Rutherford. She's great. Went to school with her. She's an amazing composer. And she did our theme song, which is also our interstitial music, as you've probably noticed. That's just a clip from the theme song. Yep. Okay.
Anything else you want to say about Kiki's Delivery Service?
I loved it. I really want to watch it again. Yeah, I might watch it again at some point this week. It was so good. Yeah.
All right. In that case, we'll see you next time on Cousin Osmosis. See ya.
Bye.